Well, a lot of you guys are in this class because you had to take a literature class, and American literature is alphabetically the first one on the list. But there are very good reasons to study American literature, particularly early American literature. And this is maybe the most uniquely important time to do it, as any time that I've ever taught it. I've been teaching here at Northeast State since 2006, and I honestly don't know of a better time to do this. So, when we think of American literature, obviously we're talking about, the literature of America, but why? Why do it? Obviously, if you are a major in English, yeah, we're going to study literature. We want to learn about literature movements and things like this, but why study literature at all if you're not a major? Because there's a lot of skills that come into learning about literature, things like analysis of data, being able to see these patterns, critical thinking, coming up with theories and being able to support them, research skills, things like that, that go into all forms of literature. But American literature, and early American literature in particular, have a very unique kind of study that goes around them that is right now, I think, particularly timely and important. I don't think anybody would disagree that this is a particularly fraught time in our nation's history. We're moving into a new president, and regardless of how you feel about that, regardless of how you feel about our outgoing president or the one that's coming in, I think that we can all agree that our country is divided in a way that it hasn't been for a very, very long time. People are judging each other based on their political viewpoints in a way that really hasn't ever happened at any other point in my life. Um, and it's troublesome, and it's going to be very difficult for our nation to move forward if we can't come together and say, here are our shared ideals as Americans. But we have to kind of figure out, well, what are those shared ideals as Americans? And I think that when we talk about it, we discover that we really do have more in common with each other than anything that we disagree on. So, part of what we're going to be doing this semester is we're going to be looking at these early documents. And we're going to start from even before our founding. We're going to be looking at documents of the people who first came here from the countries, Spain and England particularly, that first explored, the ones that we think of as being our cultural forebears. And well, why did they come here? What were their values? How do these values become the values that we think of as American today? What is our national culture? When we think of what it means to be an American, what words do we think of? And then beyond that, how did that become our national culture? And that's a conversation that we don't have a lot. So, if you say something like, well, what does it mean to be Canadian? People are going to say, well, you're polite, you like hockey, maple syrup, that kind of stuff. What about French? You'll often hear snooty, high culture, things like that. But a lot of times people don't stop and think about, well, what does it mean to be American? And how did we get there? Well, guys, that's what this course is about. What does it mean to be American? What are the values that we talk about when we talk about being American? And how did those values become so embedded in our cultural system that we think about them as words that are really synonymous with our national identity? So that's what we're going to be exploring. That's why we study this literature. We look for this answer to the question of who are we and how did we get there? And it's through that that we can come back together as a country and see that we really do have more in common than we have to divide us.